The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight! Oh,
Hi.
We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson at Blurnball.
Futurama!
Hello out there and welcome to another edition of TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, Alexis Hejna. Joining me is Zachary Strobel. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm great.
Glad to have you back. And glad we got all the bugs worked out. We're having some computer problems there. And tonight we are discussing, well, there's nothing less to say, but it's time to break loose and vamoose. We are discussing Animaniacs, the 2020 reboot on Hulu, season 3. This is the last season. They're not renewing it for any more. This is the last we're going to see the Warner Brothers and the Warner sister. Unless, of course, you have DVDs, because I will admit I'm a little ticked off that Hulu removed the classics from their streaming. I've got the first 2 seasons on DVD of both Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs, but come on, it was great to have that on streaming, folks. All right, so for those who have been with us for a while, you know that Mark Radulich and I discussed the previous 2 seasons on our show. You can find those in the archive, plug. Before we get to, kind of going back and discussing our thoughts on that, Zach, you just joined the network recently, so you were not able to join us on those shows. The first 2 seasons of the Hulu reboot, what did you think?
Well, before I talk about that, do you mind if I just briefly talk about like the original? Because it does kind of go into my thoughts about the first 2 seasons.
Sure, of course. I mean, I think we all agree that Animaniacs is a freaking standard of the 90s animation, of Warner Brothers animation, and is a complete and total icon.
Yes, I agree on that. What I liked about it is I was a really big fan of Animaniacs, Tiny Toons when I was a really big, and they were both made by the same team, the same talented group of writers. We all know who they are. We are friends with them on Facebook. What I really liked about it is it just it was a very high standard for Animaniacs, the original series I'm talking about. Tiny Toons too, but I think Animaniacs did it better. Of like that sort of that like Marx Brothers, Looney Tunes kind of like humor where it had really good animation and it was really like, it wasn't like trying to be gross, which like a lot of cartoons were at that time. It had really good animation, and it had like it wasn't just like slapstick humor. It had like a variety of humor. It was dark. It was satirical. There were puns. It was a lot of different types of humor, but it still kind of like was its own thing, like it kind of like its own variety show. And I mean, the show ended in 1998, but I mean, this was like, I think it's safe to say this was like before like cable was like a luxury everyone could afford, but I mean this was like a cable show. Like, I mean, I know it started on Fox Kids and then it switched to WB, but I mean, like through its whole run, it was like, I remember it still being very popular and merchandised, and they made video games, and that's pretty rare for like a cartoon series, because I've learned that like it's very savage. It was a very savage thing where like most cartoons didn't last like. Maybe you were lucky to get 2 seasons. This got 5, so I'm like, but yeah, it was, and the animation was great, and it was obviously like drawn by hand, and it really felt like a love letter to those old movies, old cartoons, and that's where I stand on the original. Now with the reboot, obviously it's a new. I mean, some people came back, a lot of people didn't. But I think I would still, and I think, I wanted to address one thing I forgot to address, and this is important. What I liked, the thing about like with I'll just backtrack a little bit. I like with that same team of writers, like Sherry Stoner, Tom Ruegger. That's how you say his name, right?
Is it Ruger or Rugger? I can never remember how you pronounce the U.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
Tom, if you're watching this, man, we love you and we're sorry for mispronouncing your name. You're
Rudd.
awesome.
Yeah, Paul Rugg. I know his name is not Paul Rudd. But those they worked on Tiny Toons, which was a great show and also very adult, but it was I think it was more aimed towards kids. And what I think about Animaniacs, I think it really hit that good balance between okay, this is smart, but kids can watch it and adults can watch it with them and they can fill them in on the references. And I think that was a really good audience. So for this reboot, I feel like the show is obviously it's rated TV PG, when PG and I think the PG actually means something in this case, because I think it's for the audience where now that the kids who watched the original Animaniacs in the 90s they're now grown up and now they're probably watching it with their kids. So I think it's still aimed towards that group, that same audience, but it's obviously a little more mature than the original 90s cartoon. And
yeah, no question. There's no question about how great the original 90s Animaniacs was. And I think a lot of that is attributed to how much executive producer Steven Spielberg really threw himself into it. This wasn't just a project he slapped his name on and said, oh, yeah, I'm totally, part of that, and he soaks up all the glory. From what we've heard, he was very integral in the story development. He really wanted to be a part of the series. And he went back and worked with all the writers, the artists, the composers. We obviously had the eternal earworms that the great Richard Stone gave us, that those are never going to be duplicated ever.
Yeah, I like also in a lot of the Spielberg verse cartoons, which I love Spielberg. It's weird because not weird, it's awesome that whenever a character would turn their, and this goes in the reboot too. When a character turned their head, you'd be a little xylophone sound there would be a sound effect, right? But it wouldn't be a sound effect. It'd be a musical cue or something.
Yeah, there was just so much love and energy that went into the classic Animaniacs. So again, briefly talking again. If you
sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyways,
yes, please go ahead.
Okay, back to the reboot. Okay, we're talking about reboot now. Reboot, I've always wanted them to come back because obviously a lot has changed in 22 years. I think the original ended on a good note, but it's it would be cool to see how this team of writers and how they would look back. And fortunately, they didn't come back, but the team they did get obviously did care about the original series, and it was cool. They're obviously talking about reboots, and I would like to see how they would feel about today's music, today's celebrities, how political it could kind of be. And I think the reboot does that. I think the first season of the reboot is a little, I like that one the best, I think, because it was the most ambitious and I think it had the most to say, and it was, I think, the most funny. But also, while we're talking about comparing this to the original, which and then I will get to the season we're talking about.
Yeah, we're not going to spend the next half an hour just comparing it. Otherwise, we are never going to get out of here.
We are never going to start. That is my job, to never get to the point. No, it's not. I think the animation, well, like I said, the original was all hand-drawn, and I was really it was really bouncy and stuff like that. I think the animation in the reboot is really good, but I don't think it's right for Animaniacs. And here's what I mean by that. It is great animation, but it's obviously made in a computer. It's very flat. And I wish they kind of did what they did with Looney Tunes, like the Looney Tune cartoons for HBO Max, where they kind of made the backgrounds look a little more 2D and more like paintings, and then the characters could be in the computer. But I don't know, man. I don't know if this looks the same way to you, but it just looks too flat. And what do you think?
Well, again, Mark and I discussed the first 2 seasons in previous videos. You can go find those in the archives, plug. One of the big things that we did discuss, previously was I know you said the first season was your favorite, but honestly, the first season fell kind of flat for us, and it was because of 2 main things. Firstly, we were not a fan of a lot of the animation. The animation style, the classic Animaniacs, you could tell that they were all created using the same guidelines, the same creative models and such. This one, especially the first season, there felt like there was no consistency with the styles of all the various characters in animation, with the exception, of course, of the Warner Brothers and Pinky and the Brain. Everyone else looked like they were animated and designed by a completely different studio.
Yeah, I see that.
There was a lot of scenes where I looked at a character and it's like, this frankly looks like it was animated at Spumco. Why is this now in Spumco, for those who are not familiar, was the animation company that gave us Ren and Stimpy, among others.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of parts that frankly were gross out humor, and I'm sorry, it's like the Animaniacs are not known for gross out humor, and I was like, why are we doing that? It just felt, and frankly, I felt like the subtlety was gone. Animaniacs has always been more than capable of poking fun at, the world around us. That's one of the things we've always loved about it, but they've always done it very subtly. I genuinely felt like, especially in the first season, they just took the gloves off. You have an episode with Odysseus going on his journey, and the Warners are the Greek gods, and they set him up with a Gorgon and or a Cyclops, and the Cyclops is obviously Trump.
Yeah.
And it's gross, and they have the Cyclops quoting Trump's tweets and everything, and they make him look like that, make him, or except, gross and fat and everything. And it's like, oh, yes, we get it.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
One last thing, and I know I keep saying that, but a lot of people were very mad, since we're talking about the first season, that they got rid of the Good Feathers and Slappy and Buns and Mindy. And I'm gonna have a little bit of a controversial take, but I'm actually okay with that. I actually thought the Warners were the best part. Like, they were my favorite. I miss Slappy, but I know if they didn't bring back Cherry Stoner, there was no point.
Very true. And I'm not going to lie, Slappy was my favorite character, mostly just because everyone tells me that's exactly what I'm going to be like when I'm old. I swear to God. And yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. If you don't bring Sherry Stoner back as Slappy, then there is no point. We actually get a brief cameo in the final episode of this season. Sherry does come back and voice Slappy, and basically just says Slappy's retired and she's happy to be retired. But even just hearing her voice again, I was like, yay, oh, I missed you, Slappy. It's kind of funny you brought that up, because there was the whole thing about Chicken Boo in that being the house, and they said, and the Warner saying he was the worst character. I actually put a poll out. Yeah, and I said, it's like, okay, just tell me. It's like, you don't have to go on a diatribe. You don't have to, give me a big explanation. But who, in your opinion, was the worst Animaniacs character? Tom Ruegger actually jumped in on that. And yeah, and he said the one that he felt didn't really get properly developed was not Chicken Boo. It was the Hip Hippos. And for the most part, Katie Kaboom and the Hip Hippos were the characters that the majority of people who voted in the poll said those are their least favorite characters. And I'm guessing it's just because they were the least relatable.
Yeah.
And it's like, unless you know someone who's a total money-grubbing hipster, or you have lived with a teenage girl, you're not going to get Katie Kaboom or the Hip Hippos. Chicken Boo was nowhere near voted the worst character.
No, I remember that.
Yeah. So... okay, so I think we've established our piece on the first two seasons.
I don't remember too much of the second season, but I already told you that. But so now we're caught up to the third.
Second season didn't really stay with me either. I did say that I thought that it looked like from the second season they were learning their lesson. The animation was getting a little bit more concise. It was less, it looked a little bit more like they had some standards going on with the character models. They definitely toned down the overwhelming meta jokes to make them just a little funnier. I remember the episode with Nero, who again was a parody of Trump, but they handled it in a much more graceful manner that made me laugh. I still remember the joke about the Pompeii ashes snow globe, which to me was the best joke in the whole freaking series.
Yeah.
So, so we are here to talk about the third season. So I think we've established what we thought of the first two. Let's go ahead and talk about this. This is the final season, of course, brought to us by Amblin Entertainment, Warner Brothers Animation, Hulu, and the freaking icon of the 90s, Steven Spielberg.
Yay.
So we got 10 episodes dealing with the Warners and Pinky and the Brain, and the new character that they created for this reboot, Commander Starbucks. We have the adventures of Starbucks and Cindy, he gets a couple of more episodes in this. And
oh no, they didn't bring back the gnome who lives in people's mouth. That I actually like that one.
That one I had to take with a grain of salt. As much as I love John DiMaggio and I love hearing him do screamy voices because it's fun, that was very unusual for me. I did like Starbucks and Cindy, but I liked what we got with this season. The first couple of episodes with them, I genuinely felt like somebody just put a microphone in their kid's playroom and just let the kid talk about something random, and they animated around it, and it felt so weird.
Yeah.
This one, the kid is actually given a little bit more direction to the environment around them, and
I think the kid is older though, so I think it's less mumbly and babbling. I think it's more. I could hear her better. I could kind of understand a little bit what she was saying.
I also like that now the kid actually is reacting to the environment around. We have one episode where Cindy takes Starbucks to a dog park and she's actually talking to the dogs and she's saying, "Hey, do you want to play fetch? Hey, can I have this ball?" And it's like, yes, okay, good. The kid it's not just random audio that has no context to the environment around it. This time we're actually giving some direction to the kid. We have another short where it's nighttime and the lights have gone out and Cindy's a little scared. And again, she's commenting on what's going on around her and how scared she is. And that's, a lot more funny.
Yeah.
So they definitely got better. And I think what disappoints me the most about this third season is that it's clear that from the first season onward, these animators and writers learned their lesson and they've gotten so much. They figured out, okay, this is what works and this doesn't work. Let's get rid of the stuff that doesn't work and focus on what does work. And now that they've really gotten good with the humor and made things a lot funnier and they've, nixed a lot of what we didn't like from the first season, now it's over. It's like, you guys finally got into your stride.
Yeah.
Just as you hit the finish line.
Yeah, I just is there any reason why? I heard a bunch of reasons, but is there like a confirmed reason why it's ending?
Let's take a look at the wiki and see what it says.
And if it doesn't say the right thing, I'll change it later. I'm just kidding.
Let's see. Broadcast reception. Not finding anything at the moment, but I'm not going to take up majority of this review with me just reading an article. Yeah. It's bad enough my camera's not working. You guys don't have to deal with just me here going, okay, as I read something.
Yeah, I heard it was, and it makes the one that makes the most sense for me is I heard, and this probably would explain why the other seasons of like not only Animaniacs but Tiny Toons and Pinky and the Brain and the beloved Pinky, Elmira and the Brain are now not on Hulu anymore.
Yeah, Mark asked me what I thought about that, and I said, honestly, the best way I can describe Pinky, Elmira and the Brain, it's like wearing a hat on a hat.
It is like wearing a hat on a hat. That's two hats.
Mm-hmm.
Good in math.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's there, but why is it there?
But yeah, I think it's because because they probably like lost the rights to Hulu or something like that? I mean, because that would make sense, but I think they probably like were so far into development of this third season that they probably keeps the rights to license it. I don't know.
Not sure. And I would say at first maybe it's because Warner Brothers is putting them back on HBO Max, but I think we've established that Warner Brothers and HBO have absolutely no, ray of hope for their animation department. Lord knows we've seen enough articles about that on the Cartoon Research Board on Facebook. So it's like, so yeah, I genuinely do not know why they've decided to do it. If there's a reason, please post it in the comments. Let us know. We're drawing a blank.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got us really off topic per usual.
It's all good. Yeah, sorry. We don't have Mark here to bring us back.
Yeah, but I think I remember we were talking about like how they were just hitting their stride as they hit the finish line. You said that.
Yeah, I think we're getting back to what really makes Animaniacs so special and so strong. I like that we get more of the cold openers with various gags. I greatly enjoy that. I always missed that from the first season or from the original series. There we have a few more animations that are just very, very random that I don't really know what the idea was. There's one called Murder Friends.
Yeah, that I liked. It was a little sick, but I thought it was funny because the original Animaniacs would also do random stuff too. Like they would do like the Randy Beeman thing where the kid would come out of the house and say like like sometimes it was just so odd.
Yeah.
Okay, that was weird, but it was a little funny.
Yeah, we also have a very bizarre bit. I think it's in the last episode, actually, with a couple Australian animals playing cards and talking about their kids. And one of them is a late bloomer who's a baby kangaroo. Who's not a baby kangaroo, who's a full-grown kangaroo still living in his mama's pouch.
I have a semi-related thing. If a mama kangaroo is the mother of a Joey, does that make it a Joe mama? No, I'm not sorry.
I know you're not. This is why we love you, Zach.
No.
But yeah, it does seem like they got a little bit more, I don't want to call it experimental because that doesn't sound right. But it does sound like they kind of figured out what the fans want and they're able to really capitalize that on their animation styles. We got these different shorts that are, yes, they're experimental, but they fit. It doesn't feel so much like they're doing this and we're all going, well, what the hell were you thinking? This stuff actually works. It's random as hell, but it's still funny.
Yeah, I would have killed them to bring back Good Idea and Bad Idea. That was so funny. I remember like all of those.
Oh, I did love Good Idea, Bad Idea. That was really good.
Yeah.
We also have a lot more shorts that do kind of parts 1 and 2. So it's essentially an episode that goes through the whole 30 minutes. But it's broken up by a random short in the middle. We have one where the Warners get trapped inside a video game, which I think the first time I watched it, I joked, oh, so this is how they finally decide to do CGI Animaniacs. Got it.
I don't know. I bet you know the answer to this. Do you know who did the animation for those sections? Because it was I really like that animation, like the textures and the movement. Like whoever did it, like did a really good job.
It's entirely possible that was just the CGI branch of Warner Brothers Animation.
Because I know they use real effects a lot, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it was them, because I know they did Scoob, I know they did those really, really good, 3D Looney Tunes shorts from the early 2010s. They also did that, so I mean, it does. So I wouldn't be surprised if real effects did that, but the animation was really good.
It really was. I also felt that they got a lot better with some of the more overt topics of the day. I still remember watching season 1 with Mark, and when they had to do the manspreading episode, and Dot actually says, "I don't need you to mansplain manspreading to me." I was like, and my brain just blue screened. It's just like, and I'm shutting down. That is like just the most overtly stupid thing I have heard come out of Dot Warner's mouth.
Yeah, the thing about it is, like, well, I know I keep going, and I'm sorry, I know it's trying to do its own thing, but I keep going back to the original. The thing about the original was, I feel like blah. Sorry.
It's okay. You okay?
It covered topical subjects, but I feel like it would still not date it, and I feel like a lot of it in this reboot, I think while it is topical now, I don't think in 20 years, I don't think it's going to be super like fresh as it is, or it might be kind of cringe to watch. I don't know.
That's true. And yeah, there's no doubt that Animaniacs is incredibly dated. I mean, for God's sakes, the first several seasons opened up with Bill Clinton playing the saxophone. Enough said. But this season also does have a couple of very topical moments. We have a whole episode of Pinky and the Brain essentially crashing a poker game held, and it's not the names they use, but it's obviously Prince Harry, while Pinky goes off to spend time with Meghan Markle. I mean, yeah, we know they call them different things, but we know who that joke is poking fun at.
Yeah. Can I just say something? Whoever designed these the human characters in this reboot, they all look really ugly. I mean, I understand like if they're trying to like make fun of Trump or Prince Harry or Putin or anything like that, I can understand them. Okay, they're gonna go a little ugly and a little more honest, like more caricature. But I mean, just why does every single background character look so ugly?
That's another point that Mark and I discussed in the first 2 seasons. And again, I thought that they were getting a little bit better with that in the 3rd season. But yeah, the character, I still remember the way they designed the characters in the 2020 Ketchup song. You remember for the first season? And it's just like, why does Hillary Clinton look that ugly? Why does Obama look that ugly? Why does George W. Bush look that ugly?
I mean, those are caricatures. I can understand that, but it's just like every person looks like their faces were all stretched out. It was like, ew.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I feel that really clashes with the Animaniacs themselves, who have a bit more of a timeless design. So many of these caricatures do not look like they should be interacting with Yakko, Wakko, and Dot.
Yeah. Something I liked a lot better was actually the segments with Pinky and the Brain, because I always, like I said, I love the parts with the Warners, with Yakko, Wakko, and Dot, and I honestly I love that they're getting more screen time in technically their own show.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's weird. I don't know, with Pinky and the Brain, and even this season when I was first watching it, it's never something like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch it. I'm like, oh, it's time for this, but then I end up loving it. So but I don't know why. It's a weird thing to explain. I know I don't know. Maybe it's because when I was a kid, I always wanted them like, great, another Pinky and the Brain. Why can we get more Slappy and Warners?
The shorts here, actually, the Pinky and the Brain shorts are really good. I think my favorite one is actually got to be, it's called Talladega Mice, The Ballad of Pinky Brainy.
That's pretty funny.
Well, they stink into the Acme Institute of Technology to steal. I'm not going to go into the whole shebang here, but essentially it's a miniature car that mice can drive. And Pinky ends up being the one who has to drive it, and they realize... they realize that it's so weird. It responds to Pinky's stress level. If he's stressed out, the car doesn't drive. So Brain's got to do all this stuff to try to make him happy. And we get actually my favorite moment where Pinky demands that Brain start doing impressions to soothe him. And you hear Maurice LaMarche, one of the greatest impressionists of our time, say, well, I'm not really good at doing voices. and we hear him do Morgan Freeman, Christopher Lloyd, and the cherry on the top, Orson Welles. I'm sorry. Can we just have a moment to die laughter at the fact that Brain, whose voice is obviously modeled on Orson Welles, say, "I don't do Orson Welles"? That was so freaking hilarious for anyone who knows Maurice LaMarche and knows what he has done and knows how great he is as a voice actor.
I actually got to talk to him last year. I didn't get to meet him in real life, but I got to talk to him on a Zoom chat. It was with a group of people. He was really nice. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, I've heard he is so great with his fans.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to see him at a Twisted Tunes panel with Rob Paulsen. They decided to read the script from Back to the Future, to which they started off with Maurice doing the voice of Brain as Doc Brown and Rob doing the voice of Pinky as Marty, and then about halfway through the first scene with them, the guy hosting it said, "Wait, let's switch it," and then you got Pinky as Doc Brown and the Brain as Marty, and it was great.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, so yeah, the Pinky and the Brain shorts in this season were absolutely hilarious. We get two really good episodes that actually take place again across the whole episode. We got one with a Christmas theme, because obviously we need to do a Christmas episode.
Okay.
And we have a freaking Groundhog's Day reference.
That was my favorite one of the whole season.
Was absolutely hilarious, especially the ending, because
ending was like, yeah, because I always know that it's always Pinky that ruins everything. I'm like, how did Pinky do it? I was in the back of my head. I'm like, how did he mess it up? Because Pinky's not real. I mean, yeah, he was there, but it was mostly focused on everything was from Brain's point of view. Everything followed Brain. I'm like, how did Pinky mess this up?
But it's so great because Brain starts warming up to Pinky in the last few minutes, and you think it's going to parallel the ending of Groundhog's Day. Brain has to be a better person and has to accept Pinky in order to break the loop, only to find out it's completely unrelated to that. Pinky just stole a freaking time machine.
Yeah, and it was weird because it wasn't just like, oh, I stole this time machine. It's like, oh, it's like, it was such a Pinky way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that he thought it was a freaking white noise machine.
I was watching, because the thing was I was on vacation, and it was basically like, you know, when you go on vacation, like you stay in a hotel, and you know how you were just like, you know how like they make you check out so like early in the morning, and then like you have a flight, and my flight was really late at night, so I'm just like in my hotel, I'm just have headphones on, I'm just binging the episodes because I have like 5 hours of nothing to do.
Oh yeah, you got to remember, I travel for a living. I have been there so many times.
And the reason I bring that up is because I'm watching that episode. I'm just like, there are people around me, and I just, as soon as I find out the ending, I just burst out laughing. And the thing is, when I wear headphones, I'm like 10 times louder. So everyone I just look at people around me, and I'm like, what? It was funny.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. No, that was a really good. Although I will admit, I kind of miss some of the Pinky and the Brain episodes where the thing that goes wrong is it's not Pinky being, insane. It's just completely out of their hands. I think my all-time favorite Pinky and the Brain episode is the original one where they break into Fort Knox, and they get there, and everything has gone according to plan, except Brain is kind of forgotten to factor in how much a single bar of gold weighs. And how two mice can't carry it. I just love little twists like that. It's like it's not Pinky, being an idiot. It's just, well, you sure didn't factor into that, did you, Brain? Just little things like that always, make me giggle.
Yeah, I like it because if it was always Pinky's fault, it would get so boring.
Mm-hmm.
And I would feel bad because it's like the Brain would always put so much effort, and Pinky would just carefully. But what I like about the show is, I felt that was this season's strong point was the Pinky and the Brain episodes. I think they really, which is a shame because now that, like you said, now that they got them so great, It's over.
Yeah.
And I can't watch the originals anymore, thanks Hulu. Well, I mean, they're not gone forever, but I can still buy the DVDs.
Yeah, but let's face it, it is, I've got a huge DVD collection, but it is nicer to have streaming because then you don't have to constantly juggle. Oh, I want to watch the episode. Okay, now I want to watch this episode. Wait, I got to take that DVD out and put in the other one.
Yeah.
Streaming
like
just
like a Neanderthal. I butchered that word. I ruined the joke. I'm sorry.
I didn't get the joke. Sorry.
Like a Neanderthal.
Oh, okay.
Putting the DVD in, pushing the button, using the remote like a caveman.
Yeah, let's face it. Streaming has just increased our laziness as a human race.
Yes.
Speaking of which, we got the return of the aliens from season 2 into the final episode of season 3, so we can give Yakko one last song about how we need to save the earth. Congratulations, by the way, to Mr. John Bailey for getting to return and do voice acting. I follow his on his trailer series, and it is so awesome to hear him getting to do mainstream voice acting like that. So bravo, Mr. Bailey, bravo.
Bravo. What was I gonna say? I wish speaking of Pinky and the Brain, sorry, I know we're done with that, but I wish they put Julia. I like that Julia got like sort of her own episode. I really thought she was gonna have a bigger presence more in seasons after season 1, but I don't know. I thought she was a really good character. I thought she had a good backstory, and it was good to see her at least again, like more than last season, but.
That actually does bring to a point that we brought up in our reviews of the previous seasons, is that we wanted to see. Okay, so we understand not bringing back a lot of the characters. I understand there was the argument about if you're not going to have Sherry Stoner, then you don't do Slappy Squirrel. And the writer said we're not going to do the Goodfeathers because by this point, doing a Goodfellas parody is horribly dated.
Yeah.
And I get that. And they said we're not doing Rita and Buttons because Lord knows we don't have the budget to pay for Bernadette Peters. I mean, who does at this point? So, but we wanted to see more reoccurring characters. And I really loved how in the second season and in this season, we started to see more characters coming back. This is something that I really wanted them to continue doing. And I loved Julia as an antagonist to Pinky and the Brain. I thought she was set up well, she was developed well, and she is a great foil against Brain schemes.
Yeah.
So again, really happy to see her come back. It really is. It's hard, that this is the final season. We're like, but you guys just figured it out. You finally got the formula right.
I don't know. And also, as much as I would love to see a season 4, I think even though it's like great to see Animaniacs, I feel like a little bit of the novelty is starting to wear off a little bit. Like, because I feel like, the thing about what made season 1 so great, it was like, okay, they've had 20 plus years to do this. And now it's just like, okay, let's see how someone from the 90s reacts to something to 2020s or 2010, late 2010s, whenever it was written. But now it just feels like topical, which I like, but I feel like it's now like they're too comfortable, like just making fun of it, and it's losing a little bit of its like 90s edge a bit. But I do like it a lot though.
Yeah, so maybe it is for the best that it's ended.
Yeah.
Although I think we can all agree that I don't know if Hulu's got the distribution rights. I don't know if HBO Max has the distribution rights. I don't care. Put it back on stream. Put the original series, both Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, back on streaming.
Or we will come to your house and no, we won't. I don't know where you live.
Hey, there's a reason I put the disclaimer on there. Go ahead and threaten all you want. It protects us. So, is there anything else? Let's see. Let's go through some of the episodes. If there's anything else that we wanted to discuss, we talked about Cindy and Starbucks. We talked about some of our favorite episodes here.
I like the Uber episode, especially when like I said, I was on vacation when I had to binge watch all these episodes. I mean, I started out like, okay, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to enjoy it. Then I had a busy week at work. Then I went on vacation. So then I'm like, okay, I got to really, because I got to do this review. So I got to, and also I really wanted to see them. So it was like, and it was funny. I was about to take an Uber that day. Like, cause the Uber episode was awesome. It really shows like how especially considering like, that's why like you take Uber or Lyft. It's like you really like I'm going to save a few bucks by doing the carpool. And it really shows how much like annoying it can be. Like that was funny. I like that.
Yeah, I felt that episode really encapsulated the humor of the original Animaniacs. That's a short that I could see have been written by the original writers from back in the day.
Nuggies. I want tendies.
It's like, I can't eat my nuggies without tendies. He's gonna blow. Oh my god, that was hilarious. But yeah, that was a really good episode. I really like that. So let's see, what else do we have here? So we got a lot more cold openings. We got a great one, which is a parody of the Aliens movies. Although the animation on the Animaniacs on that was pretty freaking disturbing. I really loved the fantasy opening, the idea that the wizard basically summoned the Animaniacs as 3 horrible creatures, and they were just too much for him to control. Again, that was legit funny. That was very creative.
Yeah. And I like the Marx Brothers reference, because again, like it has been confirmed in the show, in the reboot, and even on like there was a video with like a really long video from like forever ago with like the Nostalgia Critic where he reviewed like the original staff. And they acknowledged that like it was like Looney Tunes meets the Marx Brothers, which I don't know if it was consistent in the reboot, but I mean they didn't. I did like the reference in the video game one where I forget the setup line, but then the punch line was like, well, where Yakko was like, well, we took a lot from the Marx Brothers, but glass houses.
Oh, yeah. They even poked fun at that in the previous season where you have the Halloween episode and the Warners are trick-or-treating and they're dressed as Groucho, Harpo, and Chico.
Yeah. Although I don't really see Dot much as more of a Zeppo, but still, but the Harpo and Groucho, Yakko and Wakko, I totally see.
Oh, absolutely. So what did you think, by the way, this is something that we talked about in the previous season recaps. What did you think about the idea of moving Dot as more the leader of the trio than Yakko? Or do you think that they pulled that? Because that was definitely a thing in the first 2 seasons. I feel that they kind of pulled that back a little bit in this one.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. I liked it because I kind of like to see, because I like all 3 of them. Obviously a lot of the episodes were more Dot centered, which is fine. We have plenty of, like, Yakko is my favorite of the 3. But I don't mind it. I thought it worked pretty well. Because I feel like it never, like, I think they still got the same amount of screen time like that though.
Okay, because I admitted previously I didn't mind Dot being more the leader than usual, but I felt that they had really diminished a lot of her character. I mean, Mark and I went back and forth on the fact that they changed the line in the song from Dot is cute to Dot has wit. I felt that they kind of took a sledgehammer to her personality a little bit. Not to say that just her being cute is her only personality trait, but that, that was her main personality trait, was that she was adorable and she knew it and she knew how to milk it to her advantage, and I genuinely felt that they took a lot of that out. And this season, again, they haven't really brought back the whole I'm cute and I know it kind of attitude, but I feel that they really pushed or pulled back her being the leader. I felt that this season, the Warners felt a lot more balanced as a team. It wasn't so much Yakko's the leader or Dot's the leader or anything. It just felt like they were just equally powerful, and I liked that. I felt that it just made the series a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, I kind of see that more. But yeah, I felt they were really strong like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the record, Wakko's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's adorable. He makes me laugh. I love good slapstick. All right, so I think that's really all we have to talk about. Again, this is the final season, so unfortunately, this is probably going to be our last discussion on Animaniacs.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah, that is a little depressing. If you want to go ahead and check it out, all 3 seasons are streaming on Hulu. You've heard our pros and our cons, but you know what? If you're a fan of the original series, I think you're going to enjoy this. So go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, I will say this. It's not more of the same. It obviously respects the fact that the audience has grown up. I mean, the original, it's not perfect. I mean, the original, as much as I love it, I'll admit it wasn't perfect either, but it was still, but what was great about it is I think it still has that great comment. It does have stuff to say. It has really good animation, has great characters and great voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A little more political, but still great.
Definitely. Yeah, but truth is, folks, I think Zach and I are just going to go pop in the DVDs of the original series and enjoy that.
Yeah, I might do that, but maybe once in a while I'll fire up the old Hulu and check out maybe something from the 1st or 3rd season.
Absolutely. All right, so on that note, Zach, I hear you're an author. You want to tell us where we can find some of your books?
Why, yes, I am an author. And a very fine one, too. You can find my books if you go on Amazon. It's some website, some warehouse. You can type in Zachary Strobel books, and there are some good books. They make great birthday presents. We've got Dinosaurs on the Moon. That's our top seller. Friendship Sanctuary. That was a collab book. What else we've got? Warren Lane, Deborah the Substitute Teacher, Deborah the Retail Worker, which is the prequel to the Substitute Teacher.
That's the one that I did the cover for you, right?
Yes, you did. That was a great one. That was fun. Thank you.
Of course. Happy to extend my artistic abilities.
Yes, and there's other fun stuff there. I will not ruin it, but again, if you go to Amazon.com and you go to the little search button or tab or whatever, you type in Zachary Strobel books, like it. My name's right there. If you want to, and just books, and it should come up.
All right. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember what I've got. Well, we also have coming up here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, because Mark's had me working around the clock here recently. We just discussed Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. You can hear our thoughts about that. And Mark and I previously discussed his Dark Materials season 3. That was also the final season for that show. We had a lot of positive things to say about that. So let's see here. What is Mark having you review next? Oh, yes. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be leading the discussion on Scream 6. Otherwise known as someone in the marketing department said, hey, you ever seen Jason Takes Manhattan? Let's do that.
Is Jason Takes Manhattan like the Muppets Take Manhattan? Because I get those two movies confused.
Well, now I'm just imagining the Muppets running across a 7-foot-tall serial killer in a hockey mask with a freaking machete. But let's face it, we know the fan art of that already exists.
That would write itself.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I'm going to be leading the discussion on that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, we will also be discussing John Wick 4. And at the end of the month, we have got Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I am so excited to see that. And as far as the plugs that actually do pay my bills, because let's face it, Mark hasn't started paying us yet.
Wait, you guys are getting paid?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
But I will continue to harass this man until the day either he starts forking over money or one of us dies, whichever happens first.
I like the first one better.
Yes, I do too. But yes, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Purveyors of handmade jewelry created out of game pieces. You can find our stuff on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. If you're in the Kansas City area, come down to Planet Comic-Con here in a couple of weeks. Really looking forward to it. That's our home show. We do it every year. We just got our tables set, or table numbers, I should say. They gave me a corner booth, so I'm really happy because now I can put out more space. So we will also be doing the LPL Con the week before. That's in Lawrence. That's a smaller show, but it's the first year they're doing it. They invited us. I'm excited to be a part of it. We're going to take a little time after that, and then we're going to be heading to the Indiana Comic-Con. That's our first year working that one. Super excited to give it a try. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. That is Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. So for myself, for Zach, and for the Warner Brothers, mwah! Good night, everybody!
Narf.